Let's talk about the big mistakes that big companies make when they want to focus to target the Spanish market. Hello, my friends. This is Frank Medina, and today we're going to discuss one of the failures in history, and one has to do with Chevy Nova in the 70s. This car didn't make it a lot because in Spanish mean doesn't go or it won't go. So it's, the means no or it won't, ba go. That's why this car fell and didn't make it and wasn't really popular car in any country in Latin America. But today we're going to discuss one big mistake that just GMC made. So if you are trying to make a campaign and targeting the Hispanic market in the United States, you want to target Latin America with your trucks or with your product or services, this is really important if you care about your reputation and also you care about the money that you spend. And this is a really good ad that was released on the day of the Super Bowl last year. By this time, there's 8.4 million views. But I noticed something that they make a big mistakes. Not just one mistake, but several mistakes. But the biggest one is just to use a literal translation. What is a literal translation? A literal translation, you take the ad and you word by word you translate it into other language. When you do that, doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So in the case of Nova, it won't go. It's the same. People, they didn't take the time to maybe ask somebody in a Latin American country and tell them, how looks the name of this company or maybe the product or service, whatever. And this happened all the time. So what was the big mistake that GMC did? I'm gonna show you right away. Let's go to the YouTube transcript website and download the commercial, but not just the ad. We're gonna just download the transcription. So you just click here, copy and paste, and then we have here the translation. Then we go to Google Translate and we translate it into Spanish. And as you can see, there's some things that they change because I watched this commercial watching the Univision channel, and this is the mistake. So first thing, the first part of the commercial is there are trucks, or there are trucks, and then there's the truck. Yes, this is really amazing. This makes total sense in English, and even like when you use the definite article the, you're giving more importance to something. But let's see what happens when you do it in Spanish. For example, here it's explaining, the definite article the is used before a noun to indicate that the identity is, the noun is known to the reader. So that means when you use the truck, the restaurant, the something, or so and so, you are referring that is something that is singular, that is known, that is popular. Okay? And if no, it's just a truck. You see, the definite article a and n is used before a noun that is general or when its identity is not known. So you see, it's a truck and the truck. So total sense in English, 8.4 million views. That's really good. But what they did in Spanish, I'm gonna tell you what happened. Let's translate it to Spanish. I just did it here as I showed you. And it says hay camiones y luego está el camión. Here they just changed a little things. I'm gonna show you here in my WordPad where were the mistakes they made. And the first one, as you notice, they like it's really useful or use yes, really common maybe in Spanish where they use camionetas for trucks. So they just changed, instead of camiones, they use camionetas. Camioneta is more like feminine than masculine in the meaning of camion. Also, camion, we use it for bigger trucks, like semi trucks. They use camion or a big one, that you have a weight. But for those small pickup trucks with a bed, and in Mexico and in many countries in Latin America, they use la camioneta. So Here is la camioneta, hay camionetas, y luego está la camioneta. So you see, they want to use the same meaning that it has in English, but they fail miserably. Let me tell you why. Here we go to the Spanish version of the definite article. We have four. You see, in English it's just the, but in Spanish we have four. We have el, we have la, we have los and las. The first one are singular for one person or thing, and the second one is for a plural, masculine. So this is really easy to know, but in Spanish doesn't make any sense. As you can see here, y se indican aquello que designa el sustantivo ya mencionado o es conocido. So for every single word in Spanish we use la. La señora, el señor, la camioneta, el camión, el coche, la señorita, la vaca, and so on. So in Spanish, when you say la camioneta, doesn't mean anything. And this is the problem when they try to do a literal translation, and they fail miserably because two things. Sometimes they just want to save money. This happened when I was in China, and I have to do commercials because I did the voice for many commercials in China for Latin America. But sometimes they come up with these transcriptions or maybe this copy that they just translated in Google and didn't make any sense. One time I didn't want to just read, and I say, this is wrong. All is wrong. They call the person, they say, no, it's like we pay a copywriter and they wanted to use the same words because those words are, the best words. And I understand as a copywriter. But the problem is when you are a copywriter, you do a special commercial in the language, but it's impossible, next to impossible sometimes, to translate something into another language. So that's why, when you use la, this is really common. La perra, la casa. So every single word in Spanish we use it. Sometimes in English you can skip, but in Spanish you always use it. In English you don't have to use that for every single thing, but in Spanish we do, and doesn't mean anything. When you say la camioneta, it just means nothing. This is so important. That's why I came up with a solution that is here. Instead of say hay camionetas y luego está la reina de las camionetas. You see? So when you use things like that, you change the meaning because she's in this case the truck is the queen of the trucks. In English it has the same meaning. We say that truck is like unique, it's known, maybe it's like the best. You imply a lot of things, but when you just say la camioneta, doesn't mean nothing into the Spanish language. Ask anyone that is a native speaker and he will tell you the same. So here they could just change the words and it will have more meaning. Hay camionetas y luego está la reina de las camionetas, la reina del camino. Something that makes more sense for people in Spanish. Instead of just saying, okay, let's launch the global campaign, let's just translate into Spanish, and that's it. That's the laziest way to fail, because this represents that a good ad is gonna sell more things. I've been writing ads for like the last 13 years. I'm a copywriter. I can do transcriptions, I can do interpreting, I can translate, but I always focus on advertisement translation. So that's why it's so important when you're trying to find the best words in Spanish to reach the heart of the people who speak the language. The meaning is like you have to talk to the language of the heart of people, and then just then you can reach the heart, and then people will buy more your product or service. So respect more, like people in Spanish. Other thing that I don't understand is like here in the United States also there's like people who speak Spanglish. There's a lot of people, and nobody here in the States that I heard called la camioneta, unless they just come here. Most of the people, they say el troque or la troca. You can even say la reina de las trocas. Okay, or la troca más perrona, something that makes sense in Spanish, that is going to highlight the product or the service that you want to reach. That's why for me this is a failure for GMC. They didn't have the time. They have, car makers in many countries in Latin America. They could use any talented, like I don't know, a copywriter, maybe ad company, something. So this is really important, because right now, the car makers are not making a lot of money, and when they just they're not like really focused on something. And I understand, I have read a lot of books from really famous copywriters, and you want the things to sound like what they're saying, because they make money, they give the ROI, they really work, or they really deliver. But when you just take a language and change some things, and then just put her in the television, in the radio, and on the internet, and it doesn't make any sense, is when you spend thousands, sometimes millions of dollars for nothing. So that's why it's so important for me. I'm a copywriter, I'm a translator, I'm an interpreter, and I've been doing this for the last 13 years. And for me, it's just like a shame that these big companies, they don't take the time to ask a company that is successful, somebody that make ads in Mexico City. There's a lot of agencies, or somebody else that can tell you, this is not gonna work. This work doesn't make any sense in Spanish from Mexico or Central America or South America. And also the commercial I saw in Univision here in the States. So it's not focusing on the people here. Most of the people don't use word camioneta. They use trocas. In Mexico, everyone uses camioneta, but not here. So it's very important when you focus in a territory and a language, and I don't know, a lot of things, you have to think about those things. So if you want to have a discussion with me, you're gonna maybe about to launch a campaign in Spanish, and you wanna just talk to me and tell me and send me the ad and tell me what do you think about this. We can have a nice discussion. You Frank Medina. See you in the next video.